What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good evening, or wherever you are, and whatever time it is. Welcome back to yet another video with you, man. Immersionholic, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 4 of my Carthaginian campaign for the Divided to Impera mod for Total War Rome 2. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have the biggest battle yet in the First Punic War. Two of our major armies are taking on two fully stacked legions from Rome who have invaded Sicily from the north. We have Hannibal leading the Blockades Chosen, again the grandfather of the Hannibal. And then we have Gisgo leading the Hannibalids' Fist army, the prime army of the Hananid dynasty. Can the Blockades and Hananids combine their forces to deal with the Roman onslaught? We shall see momentarily. And we're going to see that now, ladies and gentlemen. The Romans are attacking Hannibal's army first. Gisgo's army is close by, ready to try and reinforce. The 4th Legion will begin the assault. And the supremacy of Sicily now hangs in the balance. Can the Carthaginians hold on to Sicily? Or will they once again get kicked off the island? Let's go ahead and find out. See you on the battlefield. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, the Carthaginian elephants below the mountains and volcanoes of Sicily. Absolutely beautiful battle map we have here. Very nice view there in the distance. You can see the Carthaginian elephant riders and cavalry admiring the view. And here we have the army that we will be using. We're going to skip a fair bit of this battle, at least in the beginning, because it took a very long time for our armies to form. We have two fully stacked armies participating just on our side in addition to on the enemy side, so it's going to take a while for both of them to go ahead and link up. Our troops will hurry ahead, but while they are planning their formation out, we actually sent forward our Numidian riders, and these guys are the cream and crop of the Carthaginian cavalry. One very cool thing about them is that they have the stalk and they have guerrilla deployment abilities. So they will be way ahead of the Carthaginian army, and they will maintain eyes on the Romans, as you can see there. And here we have the fully fledged stack of all of the Carthaginian units marching forward together. We will go into a little bit more detail shortly about the army composition. I just wanted to do this very long shot for you guys to see just how massive this army is. We have thousands and thousands of men involved in this battle. I believe we have around 7,000 Carthaginians versus around about the same in terms of Romans. This is going to be a big one, everybody. This is really going to decide a lot for the First Punic War. The Roman army, as I said, is just as big as the Carthaginian one, if not slightly bigger. Here are their troops massing forward right now from the forest. They aren't in position yet, so you'll see their cavalry mixed in with their heavy infantry. But the Romans are ready. They're bringing the best of the best that they have, at least on offer. Principes, Hastati, Triarii, good cavalry, the whole lot. So this is going to be a full-on battle. Looking at our army composition very quickly, we have Hannibal leading his personal bodyguard, and he's going to control the entire center left and far left of the Carthaginian army. The far left-hand side, of course, consisting primarily of Libyan cavalry and elephants. We have some skirmishers nearby. We then have an Italian infantry contingent at the front, followed by the main center-left consisting of Gallic units. That's Gallic spearmen from Liguria and Gallic swordsmen from Gaul. Not very reliable, but we'll see how they go in this battle. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side, we have Gisgo leading the more Carthaginian Syracusan style. He has Carthaginian hoplites in the front, followed by some Numidian skirmishers as well. Some Libyan cavalry this time, just a couple units, nothing too big. However, he has a very large contingent of Sicilian swordsmen, spearmen, and he even has a couple Libyan swordsmen in the rear as well. So a little bit of a mixture throughout both armies, although mainly Gauls on the left, Sicilians and Carthaginians on the right. Looking at the Roman legion, though, they are advancing in a very typical formation. Velites at the front, followed by Hastati and Principes, and then in the far rear, they have their cavalry and they have their Triarii. So they aren't really doing anything too creative, although this is the first time we've seen a Roman army of such professionalism on such a scale as well. I really can't overstate how monumental this battle will be. If we can wipe out both of these legions, Rome has nothing else nearby that will stop us from invading Italy. So that is what is at stake here. You can see that the animations of the units will start to stutter a little bit. Apologies for that. My FPS is fine in game. It's just once you get to a certain point, the animations themselves start to freeze. You can see here we have a lot of enemy cavalry that are mixed in with the infantry. The leaders, the consuls of these legions will be in the far rear. Far right hand side though has a lot of cavalry from the Romans, so definitely going to be concerning, and they have about the same amount of cav that we do, although we do have elephants ready to support our own cav. So the main goal for this battle for us was to wipe out both of the legions, and in order to do that we're going to have to utterly surround them. So we're going to march at them head on just as they're going to march at us. They have their cavalry on the left and right hand side. We have our own. But we're going to be defensive with it. We're going to let the Romans come down and outflank us first, or at least present an opportunity to try and outflank us. Once they do that, we will move forward our center line, have our Gauls and Carthaginian hoplites try and hold in their formation, and they basically just have to hold for as long as they can, while the left and the right wings swing around, because they're our mobile swordsmen and skirmishers. And as they begin to envelop the Romans, hopefully, we will be able to box them in, and the Romans won't even be able to raise their arms in defense. That's the idea. Let's see how we go with it. The battle begins with the Roman cavalry actually charging forward towards our infantry. They apparently wanted to show their resolve just by charging head-on into skirmishers and our own cavalry. So we will gladly take this fight. Our skirmishers are close by in addition to spearmen, so we should win those fights relatively quickly. The Romans, while their cavalry isn't necessarily bad, it's not supported, and they're just not very smart in how they're handling it. In the center, the Romans send forward their infantry, in addition to one of their consuls, consul replacements for the previous ones we've already killed. And they have their velites that will be peppering out our front line as well. So that will get some pretty easy free kills on us, although the consul with his personal bodyguard will take some severe damage. He needs to be careful there. Meanwhile, on the far left-hand flank, we have Numidian archers supporting our cavalry. We have 3 sets of Roman cavalry to deal with here, but we have 3 sets of our own cav, elephants, swordsmen, and archers nearby. We should have this in the bag on the left-hand flank. Just to make sure that it does swing our way a lot faster, though, we are going to send in the elephants very quickly. And as I said, we have archers raining in some supporting fire as well. There might be a little bit of friendly fire, but it will do more damage to the enemy than it will to us. Shortly after that, the entire army composition is now completely engaged in the battle. The Gauls, however, as I said, are pretty unreliable, so we very quickly begin to see gaps form in the line. So what we're going to have to do to counter that is send in our second line of Gauls, the swordsmen that have been held in reserve in the second line. They will charge forward, they will back up the Ligurians who are currently holding. The Ligurians don't even have a shield wall mechanic, so that's why they're also struggling. We'll send in all of our Gallic swordsmen though, so we don't have any more reserves on the left. We need to be careful. Hopefully the Gauls can last long enough to give our cavalry and faster moving units more time to outflank. The right hand side is holding very well though. Our hoplites are doing excellent, and our Sicilian swordsmen are pushing forward very fine without issue. We even have our Syracusan spearmen coming in to get involved as well. Cavalry is also doing the same. They beat the Romans within just a few moments. It did not take long to rout them. Now they're going to come in, swing behind the enemy lines, and attack the velites. They have 5 units of velites that have been peppering us this whole time, and others who are already engaged in the fighting. Left-hand flank is being wrapped up. As I said, it's going to be pretty quick, especially with those elephants involved. And now we have room for our Italian swordsmen on the left-hand side charging in to the rear of the Romans. These disgruntled Italians who are sick of living under Roman rule have volunteered to help our forces defeat the Romans, and they are more than keen to get involved, and they will do very well. They're actually very well equipped, and they're just good units overall. But as you can see, the entire main battle line is engaged. We have our troops outflanking on the left and right hand side, but the Romans are just so dense in the middle, it's going to be really hard for our Gauls to try and hold on long enough. Thankfully, our skirmishers do still have some ammunition, so they'll be getting some serious shots into the back of these Hastati and Principe units. Even though they are very well armored and have good shields, getting hit from behind with javelins is not going to go well for them, so they're going to rout relatively quickly. It's kind of surprising how fast units like that will rout, considering how well trained they are. But again, these are just the Camillan era units, such as Hastati, Principes, Triarii, with only spears and not using swords just yet. To try and seal the deal, though, we'll send forward our swordsmen on the left-hand flank as well as the right, and we're also trying to line up our cavalry and elephants to get ready to do a massive all-on-one charge against the enemy. However, before we can set up our units in time, the enemy punches straight through the middle of our lines and sends the Gauls and Ligurians into a full-blown rout. This is extremely concerning for us and opens up an opportunity for the Romans to outflank us from the inside out. They're doing very, very well. Their heavy infantry has sincerely smashed the Gauls, and we possibly have underestimated them. To counter this, though, we will send in reinforcements from the left-hand flank to come in and charge into the enemy hoplites and elite spearmen. It's not ideal, but it's enough to hold them for just a little bit longer, and all we need is a little bit more time, because now our cavalry is coming in alongside of our elephants. You can see along these red arrows the trajectory of some of our cavalry units. They're going to get some serious kills, and more so, they're going to get serious morale damage, and that's really what we're going for here. We need the Romans to begin routing, and then we can run them down before they can escape back to the mainland of Italy. Battle is going very well. The elephants charge in, and the morale of the enemy plummets across multiple cohorts. Thankfully, the elephants don't take any damage from any skirmishers, and as a result, they will stay in the fight throughout the entire fight. Ignoring the lag a little bit there again, apologies. Some of the more disciplined units of the Romans are holding out very stubbornly, though. The Triarii and their Italian elite hoplites that they have brought in their army are doing really, really well, despite being surrounded by multiple sword units and getting recharged by cavalry and elephants. So kudos to them. However, the left and right hand flanks of the Romans has entirely collapsed. The cavalry has been routed off the field, and now it's just up to the Roman center to try and outlast our units. And with so many men already routing, as you can see here, we've already had to send some of our Libyan cavalry to chase down the enemy. And look at that view. There is thousands of men who are running off the battlefield, and they are not Carthaginians, they are Romans. And so we're going to get a lot of kills as our cavalry begin to run them down. However, not all of the Romans have routed, but they are pretty much about to. As I said, the more elite units of the Romans were being pretty stubborn in this case, but now that even more of their men are retreating, our cavalry is recharging the enemy units that are still alive, and it's routing, killing the routing units. There's just no way for them to last any longer. The Romans see the writing on the wall, and their entire last few cohorts end up routing off the battlefield. Carthage wins the Battle of Syracuse, and the Roman legions are cut down entirely to a man, and they will be wiped off the face of this earth. As you can see, thousands more Romans are running off the battlefield. You can see them in the distance here as well. We have our infantry trying to march forward, chase them down. Libyan cavalry is getting involved. Even our elephants are not exhausted enough to stop, and they will continue charging down the blobs of enemy infantry as they continue to try and escape off the battlefield into the forest nearby. Fortunately, those trees are not going to stop our elephants, and our cavalry was also going to get involved. In particular, our personal bodyguards of Gisgo and Hannibal will continue routing and killing the enemy infantry as they continue to round off the field. We get a decisive victory there. Insanely big battle. 7,200 Romans against 8,000 Carthaginians. That is the biggest battle we've had yet. Took a lot out of us, though, but we didn't suffer anywhere near the casualties that the Romans did. We literally wiped out 2 whole legions, and we did it in a completely fair fight. We fought them man on man, head to head. This wasn't just some transport ships we were wiping out. This was serious, and the Romans were entirely devastated. A decisive victory. We don't lose a single unit, although our Gauls do take pretty heavy casualties for both of the armies that we had involved. So we are going to have to start to cut down on our use of Gauls, although the Italian men that we used, the Bruttians, they did fantastic. So we're going to try and recruit more swordsmen from their population going forward. But for now, Sicily belongs to Carthage, and that's how it's going to be. Checking out the diplomacy very quickly, you can see, again, we have Panormus right here. But we also have the Romans to the north, and considering they suffered such a massive loss, the Carthaginian Senate offers to grant the Romans mercy now that they have lost so many tens of thousands of men to the depths of the Mediterranean and now the fields of Sicily. We do try to offer them peace, and they reject us. As you can see, their hunger for blood is bottomless. We will try to give them more opportunities in the future to see the error of their ways, but for now, what we have to do is have Hannibal and Gisgo reorganize their armies, prepare their supply chains, and begin to march into Italy. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have the invasion of Italy in this episode. It's going to be a long episode, as you guys can already tell by looking at the timestamps, but it will be worth it. This is going to be big. We are trying not to wipe out Rome too quickly, though. Here you can see a quick unit card of the Brutian infantry. You can pause the video if you like to have a little bit more of a deeper look, but they could be really useful units moving forward, as will the other Italian units. Main idea though is to invade Cosentia, take the city, and use the choke point there for both of our armies until they're ready to continue forward onto Taurus, aka Tarentum. If we can take the city of Taurus, then we'll set up choke points on the left and right hand side of the mountain range that goes through the middle of Italy, and hopefully bottleneck the Romans and force them into a favorable peace deal for us. Pretty quickly though, our armies are going to be ready. Hannibal is the first one to cross. He's then quickly followed by Gisgo, who's leading the Hannibal army. Again, keep in mind their armies are very different in composition. Hannibal is favoring the Italian and Gallic units, while Gisgo is focusing more so on Libyan Phoenician units, Carthaginian units, Numidians, and Sicilian units. However, now that they are both marching into Italy, they are recruiting from the local Italian population, so we'll start to see Samnites and Southern Italians involved in the fighting. Meanwhile, Rome does send forward a couple tiny little navies to try and do some harassment, potentially. It seems the Romans really have no idea what they're doing when it comes to navies. We can see the 3rd Legion is still stuck in the Peloponnese of southern Greece over here. Thankfully, they haven't been able to sail across yet and help out their people in southern Italy. I have to keep an eye on that. The 3rd Republican fleet, though, led by Beneventum of the Magna dynasty, is going to sail for Syracuse. And once it sails there, it's going to move on to take on the Roman fleet that has been spotted east of Sicily. While the Romans are, they're pretty terrible on the ocean, as you can see, but they are a threat, so we have to take it seriously. The 3rd fleet will be sent there. Meanwhile, the 2nd fleet, led by Hanno of the Hannibal dynasty, I know, shocker, will be sent towards Acragas to make sure that the Romans can't launch yet another naval invasion against us, as they have shown that they are capable of doing. So in the next turn or two, we'll end up attacking the Roman navies. However, we will also end up attacking Cosentia itself.
Let them cower before our might.
The city has a decent sized garrison, but compared to our two massive and now pretty elite armies that are marching on the city, it has no chance whatsoever. So what we're going to do with Cosentia is actually have Gisgo initiate the attack, with Hannibal flanking the city from the north, and we're just going to auto-resolve it away. It's not worth playing this battle. We have cooler, more important battles to worry about. We will suffer some casualties, but nothing too severe, and we will replace it with the Italians that we recruit. However, once we take the city, instead of looting it, occupying it, or razing it, we're going to liberate it. Our idea for dealing with Rome is not to wipe them out, but to force them to understand that their Italian subjects are no longer willing to serve them. So, we're going to actually liberate Cosentia. In doing so, we create the Kingdom of the Lucani, or the Lucani Italian Republic, as they are supposedly led by their own Senate and democratically elected officials, supposedly.
On behalf of the Senate, welcome. Speak, friend of Rome.
and honor us all with wit and
They're
wisdom.
obviously very sick of living under Roman rule, and thus they will support us immediately, and they will even end up declaring war on Rome itself shortly after. More Senmats and Italians are available to us, so we're going to consolidate our forces a little bit, especially on our more depleted units, and keep recruiting them. But since our armies are in pretty good shape, we're going to march towards Taurus. However, you can see here, we're also consuming supplies in the region. While we do have a lot of turns left until we get to lethal levels of supplies, we still need to basically hurry up and not just sit around and waste supplies. So our armies will continue marching while our navies down here continue sailing. The Romans are still just holding off the eastern coast of Sicily. Not a big deal though, we're just going to send the Second Republican fleet against them. Hanno will get an easy victory. He will take some losses though. The Romans are showing a little bit more competency in that these are actual naval ships, they're not transport ships. So we will lose our supply ship, which was left unattended, and some of our bigger ships will actually take a little bit more damage. So the Romans are showing progress, just very, very slow progress. Although we shouldn't underestimate them in the future, we do need to be careful. One day they might actually wise up and end up taking out our own navies. We'll have to see. We need to be humble, ladies and gentlemen. Carthage has been humbled before, in Sicily especially. Those of you will remember a few previous episodes we've had. Sicily did not go well for us. But what is going well for us is the invasion of Italy. We're going to have Hannibal march forward across the river here towards Taurus first. Gisgo will be close by, but what we're going to actually do with Gisgo is end up sending him north towards Beneventum, aka Brundisium. And once he's up there, he will probably attack the town himself. But the reason we're splitting up our forces is that we can see in Rome itself there is a legion being recruited, and that kind of suggests to us that the Romans don't have any more legions in Italy. So if they don't, then we need to try and spread out and divide and conquer as quickly as possible. Before we begin the attack on Taurus, we once again vote to send a peace delegation to the Romans, offering them favorable terms, relatively favorable, which is just a white peace, and they absolutely were not interested despite, again, their tens of thousands of men who were lost. Getting things back closer to home though in Africa, we're going to be overhauling the province a little bit. I was trying to focus on selling slaves and making money off that. However, it doesn't really seem to be doing well for us. So what we're going to do is go back to focusing on agriculture in Africa, which is what I should have done from the beginning. I just wanted to experiment a little with the slaves. And so what we're going to be doing, which you should do in your own campaigns, is try and build temples that will increase our agricultural output. And it'll give us an extra 10% per level, I believe. So that's going to be pretty big for us. So to try and focus our economy on agriculture, we're going to change the edict in Africa itself, just the province of Africa with Carthage in it, to exporting food. So we're going to be exporting the majority of food that we create, much like how Egypt does. However, we're also going to be expanding our agricultural market by increasing not only our fishing ports, but also our farms. So we're going to be expanding our food, basically production lines throughout the entire province over the next few years. So even just by changing that single little edict though, we go from having just a few hundred income per turn to over 3,000 per turn. So agriculture in Africa is an absolute must. My man Toxborg will be able to tell you more about that, of course, in his economic guides. Meanwhile though, Taurus is going to be besieged. We have the Third Republican fleet, led by Mesinthan, blockading the harbour. It's not really a large fleet, but it's big enough to do the job. Hannibal himself is going to march and initiate the siege on Taurus. Meanwhile, Gisgo will be marching north in just a few moments. The garrison is pretty massive, although we could just auto-resolve this and have yet another easy city. This is the first walled city that will be fighting against the Romans in. And because it's a Roman city, although more of a Greek city held by the Romans, we're actually going to try and fight it shortly, so that's going to be a lot of fun. We can see the Second Legion is being recruited and mustered in Rome, so we need to hurry up and begin our march towards Beneventum. It seems as though that's going to be the main place to try and hold them out, but because of the fog of war is there, we have no idea exactly how many units they have in the city itself and in the general area. It's going to be very risky, but Gisgo is feeling extremely confident with his recent wins against not only the Romans, but the Sicilians and the Cyrenaians. He's had a very successful military career so far, so Gisgo is starting to get a little bit arrogant. Basically tells Hannibal he doesn't need him anymore. War is declared between the Lucani and the Romans, and then the Insubres and the Romans. The Insubres are a Gallic tribe to the north of the Romans who are living in the Po Valley and Midland. And the Lucani are, again, that faction that we just liberated at Cosentia. The Italians will be pretty helpful in fighting the Romans. I'm not too sure how helpful the Gauls will be up here, though, as they've been fighting on and off for a while now, and they haven't made any progress. Although the Illyrians are very close, and they're actually invading the Po Valley to the north as well, so perhaps we can try to organize an alliance with them. To counteract Gisgo's march, so the Romans send forward the 2nd Legion to Beneventum. They'll be combining their forces with the town garrison to make sure Gisgo doesn't get an easy victory on his own. Despite this though, Gisgo is feeling extremely confident, probably due to the mediocre size of the garrison itself, and he will initiate the siege on the city, although he won't assault it instantly, which may prove to be a bit of an error, as we shall see soon. However, someone who will not wait is Hannibal. He's waited just one turn, which is the equivalent of 3 months, because we're just on 4 turns per year, FYI. He is now marching on Taurus. He's going to begin the assault. His Gauls in particular and the southern Italians are incredibly keen to put the Romans to the sword and liberate southern Italy. Here we are on the battlefield, ladies and gentlemen. We have the city of Taurus and its garrison manning the walls. Pretty massive garrison so far. It's not the best units, but I mean they're better than, say, fighting African garrison units. And it is a pretty big city, as you can see here. Not only does it have very large walls for its defenses, but it has narrow streets. It even has a bit of a plateau that some of the wall is on, and it has a harbor. But thankfully, the harbor is actually going to play in our favor very soon, as you'll see. The Gauls will lead the attack in this one. They seem to be the most unreliable and aggressive units that we have to offer. So we'll be sending them in the first wave alongside some Numidian archers. Their archers aren't really being all that helpful though. We'll probably end up replacing them very soon as well. Maybe we can try and find a way to recruit some Sicilian crossbowmen. In the second wave will be the Ligurian spearmen. They'll be aiming for the main gate area. Behind them though, we have the personal bodyguard of Hannibal. There is a very good close-up of him with the sun behind him, all dramatic. As he levels up, you'll see more cool stuff added to his character. So for now, just has a little bit of a scarf around his neck. And then in the rear, we have our cavalry. And then in front of our cavalry, we have our Italian infantry. These are the Brutian infantry who performed very well at the Battle of Syracuse. And so in this battle, they will be held in reserve and basically saved for as long as possible, because they seem to be our best troops that we have in this army so far. That is to say, best infantry troops, I should say. The battle begins with our men marching forward slowly, archers rushing forward to provide covering fire for our men. The towers of Taurus will respond appropriately, sending forward their flaming shot towards our men. They will hit our men, and our men don't have any armor, so they're going to start dying pretty quickly, but it's going to take a while for those towers to have a very long-term effect. And by that point, our Gauls should be over the walls. The garrison troops scramble to take cover as they come under heavy fire from our archers. Very undisciplined, and there's no general inside the city, so we're going to see a lot of mistakes come out of the garrison troops. And a lot of them are pretty fearful of Carthage. Seeing so many legions get wiped out has set them off their nerves. Meanwhile, our fleet sails in towards the harbor. It chases away the Republican navy that was stationed just outside of it. And here they are running on the beach towards one of the main gates of Taurus. So they'll actually go inside the city and prepare to defend the harbor while we're down there. So you'll see that engagement shortly. but their navy wasn't interested at all in trying to defend the harbor, at least not on their ships. While they were running back in, though, you could see far off in the distance the engagement against the enemy on the walls is about to begin, with our ladders getting very, very close. The Romans actually sent forward a small unit, a little levy skirmisher unit, to try and stop our ladders, but they were pushed back by the Ligurians and the Numidian archers, dealing severe damage. Our ladders are now just about coming up on the walls, again pushed forward by our Gauls primarily. The Ligurians will begin trying to burn down the gate, and the first men over the wall will arrive from the Gallic contingent over here that will be riding up the ladders on the right hand side. Garrison troops, again, not very organized. They're going to be very frightened and scared to fight our Gauls, which is why we set them up first. They're very aggressive, very intimidating. These militia petty units are not going to be able to handle them very well, although they do one smart move, and they actually have slingers down below who will be conducting fire against our men while they're fighting on the walls over time, and they will get substantial kills against our men. Not good at all. As the battle continues, we send forward our Italians to march up the ladders. The Bruttians will provide some very much needed discipline and perhaps better tactics up on the walls, while our Gauls are still pushing through. The Ligurians are almost through the main gate, and the Italians will be pushing up on the left hand side as well as the right. So that will really help our advance a great deal, as the Gauls, while they did push the enemy off the walls, are actually getting stalled around the main gate. As you can see here with the UI turned on, the majority of the enemy army is behind the main gate, down on the ground, and so their skirmishers are getting kills against us, and their spearmen are blocking our Gauls from coming out of the stairway. Meanwhile, back towards the harbor, we have our skirmisher ships basically covering our admiral of the fleet. That's right, Macinthan himself is going to lead his personal bodyguard of marines onto the sand of the harbor and march towards one of the main gates. The garrison troops begin swarming towards the left-hand or perhaps southern stairwell as much as they can. That's where our Gauls are making the most headway. We even have our archers going over the top and firing down into the enemy, although they're starting to get low on ammunition. But man, we just have so many Romans pressuring our Gauls that despite our men having superior tactics and overall skill, the Romans are actually winning pretty substantially down there. So we're going to be focusing our Italian units on running along the walls, and then they will be coming down at various sections to try and catch you Romans off guard. Meanwhile, the main gate, though, is still highly contested, although we do own the entirety of the walls up top. Just down below is where the Romans are stopping us. The Ligurians are now finally able to come through, as they've just broken through and burnt down the main gate. The oil from the gate also isn't being poured because it's under neutral claim right now. So that will help us out a lot, save a lot of Ligurian lives. They are just spearmen though, and they're not very good spearmen, so they're going to take a while to have a pretty substantial impact on the battle. Meanwhile, the Bruttians are cutting through the enemy's skirmishers. The skirmishers were caught off guard and unprotected because our Italians ended up outflanking the enemy main units. And here you can see how brutal the fighting was and how effective the massive shields were that the Bruttians get to use in conjunction with their short gladius swords. Meanwhile, Macinthan is capturing the gate next to the main harbour. Once he captures that, though, we're going to have the Carthaginian cavalry actually run all the way around the city, along the side of the walls towards the coast, and come in through the side gates and to try and outflank the enemy garrison. So this is going to be very big for us, and that will help out massively. They will take some casualties from the towers, but they will be very, very minimal. Meanwhile, back towards the main gate, we have our skirmishers who have been ordered to hold their fire now, and our elephants are also very close, and they will get involved in the fighting when needed and when possible. However, the Italians are making excellent progress, and they are now starting to surround the garrison in its entirety. As soon as the enemy is recharged, they are routing off the field in massive chunks. Most of the cohorts of the swordsmen of the garrison have retreated. There's just a couple outliers that are left near the towers, and the main gate has one of these skirmisher units left. But for all intents and purposes, the main garrison is retreating. We send in the elephants to put the final nail in the coffin, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, the city of Tyrus falls and surrenders to the Carthaginian Republic. And there we have it, a decisive victory. We do take some pretty substantial casualties, although, again, it's mainly suffered by our Gallic units, which we don't really care too much for. The majority of them actually come from the subject social class instead of foreigners, so they're hard to replace while we are conquering in southern Italy. We end up liberating Tyrus as well. We really want to try and give these southern Italians a chance at their own independence, and more importantly, a chance to take the brunt of the fighting against the Romans instead of us. Whatever happens in Italy right now, we don't care. We've done the majority of what we want to, and we're even getting a little bit of money out of it from the local Greeks, who are very appreciative of us trying to help them. After the siege of Tyrus, so we will now begin reorganizing the army, and we're going to try and ensure that all of our units are at the highest tier possible in terms of capacity for their units. So all of the Italian units will be redone, they will be merged together, and while we might lose some experience in some areas, it will be long worth it. We're going to get some Italian infantry as well. Some Samnite cavalry will be joining Hannibal's army very soon as well. However, in the meantime, the Romans somehow managed to muster an entire legion, the 7th Legion, which is now consisting of Polybian-era units. These men are using massive shields and swords. They are much more professional than any of the previous legions that were faced against Rome. They end up launching an attack against Gisgo at Beneventum. However, Gisgo has the wisdom, at least for now, to avoid taking on this legion head-on, and he is going to retreat back towards Tyrus, just outside of the Roman reach. And we have Hamilcar, the son of Hannibal, again, Hannibal the grandfather of the Hannibal, now comes of age. So Hamilcar will very soon be given a general's position, and he will be pushed into the spotlight of the First Punic War. At least in the very near future he should be. It depends really on how much longer his father will continue serving. Perhaps the heirs of Hamilcar will see the end of this war. That is another thing we'll have to see. But Italy is in turmoil, and this is why we have an entirely fully stacked legion coming out of nowhere from Rome. The Italians and the Romans are combining their forces to try and launch a full, completely professional legion against Carthaginian forces, and it has caught us off guard, although we will handle it as needed. However, back in Africa, we're actually having a fair bit of trouble. The Garamantians have been a tribe that has been fighting our Numidian allies for quite some time now, for quite a few decades even, and the war is going nowhere if not slightly in favor of the Garamantians. They have taken one city from our Numidian allies, but we have also had our allies take care of one of their cities, but they have more armies, and they have the city of Garama, which is very defendable and very hard for our allies to get to. So what we're going to have to end up doing is that the Senate of Carthage is ordering Hannibal to return from Italy. Hannibal has done massive amounts of damage. He's recaptured he's recaptured Sicily and helped liberate southern Italy. He has played his role in the First Punic War for now. So Gisgo, being as confident as he is, will remain in southern Italy to continue the fight, potentially liberate the city of Beneventum. We shall see on that. He does try and recruit some more locals, but for all intents and purposes, the invasion of Italy is being halted and reversed, if anything. It's up to the Italians and the Greeks in southern Italy to combine their forces now. However, Gisgo is once again caught unprepared, and the 2nd Legion are marching against him. However, this time, instead of retreating, Gisgo is high off the recent victories against the Romans and takes on this massive and very professional force all on his own. Let's hope the mercenaries of Sicily and the hoplites of Carthage are strong enough to take on his newly bred Roman legions. Here we are on the battlefield, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be yet another badass battle. This is going to be a little bit more of a survival battle, though, as we have very defensive positions on this hillside right here. Very steep hill, quite large, even has some brush and tree cover. And you can see the difference in types of units that we have across our army composition. But we're all basically hugging the hill and a little bit of a kind of a V shape, although it's spread a little bit wider. You'll see right here as we zoom out, we have a very broad shape. We're not going very deep with our lines here. The main line will of course consist of our hoplites. Meanwhile, on the right hand flank of our army, we will have our Sicilian mercenary units, primarily focused over here, which is mainly spearmen and swordsmen, so they'll be very useful. We have our Samnite cavalry as well, and they'll be backed up by some Numidian javelin skirmishers. The second line of our center will consist of Numidian archers and a Libyan swordsman contingent that will act as a reserve. And on the far left-hand flank, we have way less units than the right, but we're also brunting this left-hand flank with some skirmishers, cavalry, and some Iberian swordsmen. So our left-hand flank shouldn't have too much trouble because of the angle that we're expecting the Romans to come at us from. They should follow these red lines right towards our main army. At least that is what we hope. And again, once we do that, our hoplites will hold and our more mobile sword units will swing around the left hand and right hand flanks, or perhaps even send back some of their units to form a second line behind the hoplites if needed. The legions of Rome march forward in a very spread out formation. I mean, they do have an army reinforcing, so it's going to be a little bit messy with their army composition, but they seem to be forming a little bit of a triplex Achilles formation, where their armies spread out into a checkerboard style, and they are not in one massive blob. Our Samnite cavalry will march forward and scout out the enemy army, and once the Romans see the Samnite positions, they rush forward and begin charging up the hill as soon as they're in range. The enemy cavalry once again marches forward ahead of the main army, and they get caught completely by surprise by a side charge of our own cavalry into them, combined with Numidian javelinmen dealing massive amounts of damage. So those Romans will definitely not last very long. However, looking across our main battle line, the velites of the Romans are beginning to bombard our troops. And our troops, such as our hoplites, while they do have the big shields, they are in a tight formation, so they're going to begin suffering casualties. We will have our archers focus fire on the velites, but they have shields, and thus they will take quite a while to actually kill in any kind of meaningful numbers. The right hand flank of Carthage is again attacked by Roman cavalry units. They have two pretty solid high tier cavalry units charging into our single Samnite unit over here. The Samnites are ferocious and very well equipped, so they will put up a severe fight, but we also have Syracusan spearmen nearby that will be charging in to help, in addition to our Numidian skirmishers. So once again, the cavalry of the Romans should be beaten off the field pretty handily. However, the Roman heavy infantry are again showing how powerful they are. Not caring that we have such a massive terrain advantage over them, they begin charging straight up the hill and engaging our hoplites completely. Even the legate of the army right here is charging directly forward with his personal bodyguard of cavalry against hoplites. They absolutely do not give a stuff, and the Romans want to continue to demonstrate their determination. Despite us winning constant victories against them, it's clear that this war will not be ending anytime soon. Our Sicilian and Italian units will also be helping on the right hand flank, and way over here we have our Libyan swordsman unit. It's pretty small, not very well trained or elite necessarily, but it is an extra unit that will begin wrapping up the right hand side of the Romans very quickly. Speaking of wrapping them up though, the enemy cavalry, as you can see, is routing off the battlefield. We will chase them down and they will not become an issue. However, a little bit more towards the center of the enemy formation, we can see that they do have some infantry blobbed together. When they're blobbed together in such a way, they actually end up helping each other out. And we have a second wave of Romans incoming out of the tree line. Their reinforcements from the 2nd Legion from Beneventum has finally arrived, and so they will be joining the fight and just getting into formation behind their brothers in arms. Meanwhile, on our far left-hand flank, the enemy cav was dealt with extremely quickly yet again, so that's very good. However, we still see even a third wave of Romans coming in, only just entering the tree line right now. So this battle is absolutely nowhere near won or over just yet. Zooming in a fair bit here, you can see how hoplites are in a defensive formation, and despite the high terrain, they're actually getting cut down pretty heavily. These Romans, now with their, whatever you want to call it, reform style units of these massive shields and short swords, are dealing very severe damage. They even send in a little cohort of dogs to try and harass our hoplites, disrupt their formation, and cause panic in the lines. So while it won't panic our troops, it will irritate them and cause them to push a little bit forward, a little bit faster, more so than what they should. Another thing the Romans do is that they send in fresh troops to mix with their exhausted troops. So even though we have exhausted many of their cohorts already, their new units that are coming in are completely fresh, and they will be basically sent to the front line, thus sending forward their best troops, or at least most fresh troops, to engage our now tired units. Across the rest of the front line, we are still continuing to wrap the Romans up, but without substantial cavalry support, our infantry is making slow progress, and it's going to take a long time to start to get our results back from that. However, Gisgo ends up leading his cavalry back down behind the enemy lines, and he'll combine his troops alongside the Libyan and Samnite cavalry, and here they are charging into the Roman general of the 2nd Legion, who is trying to help out, restore some morale to his armies. And we're just going to hunt down the crap out of him and make sure that the Roman generals, both of them, don't escape off the battlefield. We need to get this Roman army routed. We can't wipe it out in a one-on-one fight. We're going to lose if we try and do that. So we killed the general. He ends up riding off the field, but dies while trying to do so. So now our cavalry is going to start initiating rear charges. On the far right-hand flank, we're going to see the immediate effects of that, as some Roman units rout instantly and others are wavering and are very close to wavering as well. Towards the center of the army, we even see more Romans wavering. However, our Carthaginian hoplites are getting very ground down in certain areas, although not in all of them, but in a good chunk. Thankfully, we do get some nice routs from the Romans though, and that continues off and on for quite a while. You'll see some of the Romans pouring down the hill now, while our cavalry is recharging. In addition, we also have our Carthaginian hoplites, or Libyan Phoenician hoplites I should say, reforming their line and pushing forward down step by step. And this is a new ability that Divided Impera has added, where you get to push a button on selected hoplites and they'll push forward together. So right now our hoplites are pushing down the hill and literally squashing the Romans against each other, while our cavalry hits them from behind. Their officers are trying to lead their men from the front and inspire their morale, but it is simply just not working. Our terrain advantage and the tactics and surrounding maneuvers that we're using are just way above the Romans right now. Despite us suffering pretty big losses so far, that battle is starting to swing into our favor pretty heavily. Both of the Roman generals have been killed, and they are now surrounded by 3 units of cavalry and some fast-moving swordsmen. Zooming out, you can see the right-hand flank of our army is completely wrapping up the left-hand side of the Romans. They are, for all intents and purposes, completely crushed on their left-hand side. Meanwhile, we have Gisgo organizing a massive charge into the blob center of the Roman formation. Even though there is a lot of Romans to push through, having this rear charge will still be deadly to their morale. You can see that they make it pretty deep inside the lines of the Romans, and they will get an instant rout on one of their massive units. Another one is about to rout. Those units are both going to rout shortly. However, one of our Carthaginian units ends up getting surrounded and outflanked, and the Italian unit that has outflanked them will cause them to rout off the battlefield, although they do it in far too late of time. And the Romans now see the writing on the wall yet again, and their elite hoplites begin routing off the battlefield. However, they will not do so in peace, and our Libyan cavalry combined with our Samnites and Carthaginian personal bodyguard units will rout them down, and yet again another Roman legion will be wiped off the face of the earth. we have a close victory against the Romans. Despite us getting a very solid victory, we took massive casualties. This new style of fighting from the Romans is very concerning. Their new units are actually very strong and very aggressive, and they are very well equipped now. Whereas before they were just using spears, which our swordsmen could outbeat and our hoplites could hold off against. So now we really need to reconsider our priorities for the moment. And considering just how many losses Gisgo suffered in a basically one-on-one engagement against a Roman legion, it's time for him to pull back. As I said, we get a close victory, and we almost entirely wipe out the 7th Legion of the Romans. We will continue our policy of ransoming the captives, though. We're trying to gain good favor with the Romans, and we're just trying to get money. Let's be real. And also trying to demonstrate Carthaginian honor. However, again, the Romans have no interest in peace, and as such, Gisgo is recalled back to Sicily. So just as Hannibal is being sent to Acragas to march down into Africa, our other army in Italy, led by Gisgo, will return to Sicily, where he will hold his position, and he will not receive new orders to march back north into Italy. We're not too sure where Gisgo will go next. He might just hold his position in Sicily to try and wait out against any counterattacks from the Romans should they manage to beat the southern Italian coalition. We'll have to wait and see how Cosentia and Taurus do. But for now, Gisgo needs to retreat, recuperate his forces, and perhaps answer for his little bit of a failure there at the end of his invasion, where he lost thousands of Carthaginian lives for little gain. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to channel members who have made this series possible, and thank you to our modders as well, who have also contributed greatly and made this series possible. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next one.